My name is Eldad Ben Tora. I'm the co-founder and CRO of Chief of Revenue of Kilos. Some might say that my title is a bit sarcastic for our industry, but we'll hope to prove them wrong shortly. In this presentation, we'll share our insight working with hundreds of app developers and device manufacturers, helping them handle their kids' traffic, and a few words about us to understand our perspective. Kilos is a content recommendation platform. We help kids find their next activity online, next game, next app, next video to watch, and we come in two flavors. The first one is a solution for device manufacturers. We work with highly respected tier 1 device manufacturers. We're giving them a complete solution for their devices, a huge library of content for kids to browse and play around. The second solution is an SDK for app developers, where we are doing practically the same, but we are a content recommendation widget that sits within kids' applications, and while they're playing one game, we would suggest their next game during the gameplay based on the relevancy, the age, and the things that we could track inside those apps. Overall, we're doing it for it would be 16 million kids that will reach this month. So it's growing very well. Lately, we're a team of nearly 20 people based in Israel, and our SDK is embedded on nearly 500 apps already, just to understand our perspective. And when we talk to app developers, we ask them why. First question is why develop app for kids? And we were not surprised to hear that most of them are not doing it from a pure business decision. They did it in order to help kids. They were either inspired by their own kids or other kids, but they're not approaching the market as a business opportunity. And if they did, they probably think differently today. And why is it so challenging? Why the kids space is so challenging? The first problem is discovery. Because when it comes to kids don't browse the store. They don't go to the app store with intent like we adults. They hardly go to the store in any way. And if they do, they could swipe probably the whole store in 1 second. And parents are not involved in the process. So unless you have a huge portfolio of apps and you can cross-promote between your apps, or you have fans in Google and Apple and they constantly feature you, there's a huge problem of discovery when it comes to kids. And if we thought discovery is hard, well, then we get monetization. And monetization is probably the biggest problem, the biggest problem of our industry. And cost of acquisition is rising, and the money that we make from each user stay low, and the gap between the money that we need to spend and the money that we generate is probably the gap that is preventing our economy to become a sustainable, growing economy. And this is what we're trying to solve, and some other companies are trying to solve as well. And the challenge of monetization is well reflected when we ask them how do they market their apps. And only 21% said that they're doing any sort of user acquisition. And if they are doing some sort of user acquisition, it would be a couple of thousands of dollars a month, and not even every month. So they're not, user acquisition as a general method is not very common. So how do they make money? They have two ways to make money today. They can ask their user to pay, their users to pay, or they can rely on ads. I'll focus on the second option, but I'll say a few words about asking your users to pay. There are three main ways. We heard Adoki previously. They're into setting their apps as premium apps. It's highly common on iOS. But the problem is it keeps your user base relatively small, and for some companies it's not the way that they want to be perceived or work. The other method to place in-apps within your app is more popular on Android, but this option raises so many concerns. Besides regulation and complaints and refund requests coming from users, the conversion rate is relatively low, is very low, and the reason is when kids are being asked to pay, they know what will be our answer as parents. When my kids are coming to me and asking for me to pay for an app, the immediate answer would be no, right? And the second answer would be no again. They need to beg in order for me to say yes, I'm willing to pay for your character. So kids they choose their wars. They choose their wars, and they will only beg for the apps that they are highly engaged with. They're not. It could be a role model or a strategy game, but what are the chances of a simple memory game or a puzzle game for the kid? What would be? It's not important enough for the kid to go to the parent and beg for him to pay. The third option is probably the best way to monetize the kids application. It's highly popular among top grossing apps. The subscription-based method. In terms of ARPU, it generates the biggest ARPU, probably triple than any other ways. But again, it requires a lot of effort in developing content on an ongoing basis, developing content offline to feed the subscription. The subscription is a hungry animal, and you need to feed it with content all the time in order for the subscription to stay alive and retain. And even if you're doing okay through one of those methods, you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table, and you're not monetizing most of your potential clients. And in any case, the portion of paying users, either it's 1% or 5%, it will always be, the smallest part of your clientele. Which leads us to ads and sponsored recommendations. And what is the potential of the market? Right now, brands and publishers are spending $4 billion on mobile display this year alone, but the biggest potential is coming from TV campaigns. Right now, the budget that is being floating to TV will probably equally spread between TV and mobile in the next few years, so the biggest potential is coming from TV. So we asked developers, how do they feel about ads? How do they feel about presenting ads to their users? And most of them are okay with ads. Some of them are okay only with safe ads, and only 37% said that they will not show any type of ad. And we believe that the more we'll have safe ads and more regulated, the more the space will be regulated, we'll see more and more, we'll see fewer developers saying a complete no to ads. So I'll jump into a few, and sorry for the provocative title, I need to create attention. Three bad examples of how shouldn't you do in terms of monetizing your app with ads. The first one was mentioned a lot, is do nothing, right? Is bury your head in the sand in terms of COPPA compliance, tracking kids' information. You probably heard about InMobi that was fined last month for nearly $1 million for tracking kids' location. And the FTC is actually more into publishers. So as publishers, we need to make sure that we're not tracking any information. And I think that we'll see more and more platforms doing what Corona did. Corona are stating to their developers, if their app is targeting kids, they need to, they shouldn't use generic ad networks, and they should use COPPA compliant monetization plugins, which happens to be us, but it shouldn't be us, not just us. The second bad thing you can do is being non-compliant to the app stores. And if we thought that being COPPA compliant is hard, being store compliant is even harder. Each store came up with different set of rules, how to be accepted to the kids category. On iOS, they force you to have the parental gate. And if you're running a CPI campaign, if you're running a campaign that drives installs, and the kid needs to go through the parental gate, it's quite a killer for the campaign. On Google, they decided that developers can only promote one item at a time. So ad mob banners are okay, but if you want to use a game wall, which is what Outfit 7 and Tom the Cat apps are doing, they cannot be a part of the Google Play. And by the way, Outfit 7 and Tom the Cat, they decided that they won't be a part of the Google Play for Family section because this is how they monetize. This was their decision. Well, the third option is not much to talk about it, and you'll be amazed how many apps out there are not given any thought of the type of ads that they would show. This is a coloring app. So many apps are showing dating apps and insurance or psoriasis or any type of app that is not appropriate or relevant for kids. Let's finish with 3 good examples to to leave you with a good taste. The Nick Jr. app is stating clearly what's an ad and what's not an ad. It's not hurting your conversion rate because kids, well, until they're 5, 6, they don't know how to read anyway, and after the age of 6, they can recognize an ad, without even reading it. So it's not for the sake of kids; it's actually for your credibility as a brand. And when parents see you, when app stores see you, it's important to clear what's an ad and what's not an ad. Being relevant, when we promoted an app based around animals within an app based around animals, the conversion was double. So if you can tie between apps that are closer in their theme or relevancy, it will generate a lot of many more clicks, and the promotion will be much more effective. And the last tip is to respect kids. We found out our units are actually quite small, and they're not taking over the whole screen. They're not forcing the kid to watch all the way to the end. They're just suggesting content in a nice way, and kids can just go into the unit and look for content. And they're initiating, the demand, and it's not us forcing them to see. And I'll finish with a movie that we've created this week. A little bit of self-promotion.
And we're back here with our lovely App of the Year winner, Math Frenzy. So, Fran, before the break, we were talking about some changes you went through lately.
Well, it started with my developer having to make some money, obviously. I'm all good with that and everything, but not while disappointing my kid fans. No way. Luckily, my dev replaced these dreadful ads with kiddos. And monetization is better than ever. You really don't need to make a big fuss to get noticed, just to be relevant.
Hey, that makes a lot of sense, Fran. It seems like Kiddos truly made a difference for you.
It did. Kiddos SDK is a kid-friendly content recommendation widget. It's integrated in kids' apps to help children find cool stuff, like other great apps and videos. As you can see, no developer should ever have to compromise on his app experience or design. Kiddos SDK is fully customizable to fit any app and look awesome.
Wow, look at that. Very nice.
Yeah, kids love it, and since it looks so native and non-intrusive, it converts much better, boosting revenue and introducing a whole new monetization standard.
A dev paradise.
But not only. Brands and advertisers also love Kiddos. They can promote their content to millions of kids based on their location, age, and even interest. Derek, I can go on and on.
Yeah, that won't be necessary. Give it up then for the lovely Math Frenzy. You do look amazing, Fran. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thank you for having me. Any questions? Thank you. Yeah. You just go to kiddos.net and you can subscribe for free. It's an industry. Thank you.
Did everybody hear that? Kiddos.net to sign up for the email blast is directed at developers and parents.
We pick them manually, one by one. We've integrated into several ad networks, and we're bringing internal direct campaigns, and we'll make sure that the advertiser is safe and relevant. They don't need to be COPPA compliant themselves. We need to be COPPA compliant. It's the target of your ad is, it's up to them.
So I have a question. What role, for example, do parents and family play in discoverability? Because I know that's a big challenge.
That's a good question. Well, they play a very little role. Well, when you have your first kid, you're highly involved in his early years. So maybe you're involved in your first kid in your first early years, but later on, you just the minute they're peacefully in front of a screen, you use the time to do some Facebook on your own, and most of the parents are not involved, and they might think they're involved. Funny, we had a survey. We asked parents how badly they need the parental control features. So 70% said, oh yes, we need the parental control features and we're using them on a monthly basis. But we have our logs. We know how many of them are actually using the parental control, and it was less than 10%. So while parents might want to think they're in control and they might want to say they're in control, they're not, and they're not helping their kids, they're not monitoring their kids, they're not there. So it's from the age of 4 or 5, kids are alone, and the whole discovery is on their own, mostly. Some parents are highly involved, but not the majority. So
if I'm a parent that I don't have the time to do a ton of research, but I do care about what my kids are playing and what they're seeing and accessing, do you have good resources that you could direct parents to on what the rules are and where they could go to find safe content and apps for their kids?
They can start by installing Kiddos. That would at least help.
So you do have information on your own site?
Sure. The only content that will enable and give access to was something that we've checked manually, and it applies to all content, all pieces of content that we have inside Kiddos, not just ads. So all the pieces of content, and it's over 250,000 items, games, videos, apps, all of them were manually checked by our team. So they can start there. But eventually we need to educate our kids to understand the difference. And they do know, and we just need to be beside them once in a while, give them a few tips, but eventually we need to trust them.
And in addition to resources for parents, do you have resources for developers for them to know what they should be and shouldn't be doing, like that they need to be COPPA compliant, etc.?
Yeah, they do need to be COPPA compliant. They should be aware that using generic ad networks is exposing them and they're at risk. So they do need to look for COPPA compliant platforms out there. We're not the only one, but we're one of the options. And they should monetize carefully, but they should monetize, and they should think about monetization in day one, not after they lost all of their money, and they're needing desperately. They're needing revenues. They need to think about monetization at day one, and they can use us alongside other methods, alongside other monetization methods. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.